In Ferguson, Baltimore police officers are turning in their finding of the death of Freddie Gray to prosecutors. There have at least been 15 car break-ins at Missouri State University, one of the last places that makes cassette tapes in the country, and how they're making a comeback.
This is Ozarks News Brief at 4 p.m.
Cities around the country are still recovering tonight from several riots. Hello and welcome to Ozarks News Brief at 4 p.m. I'm Eli Willenhouse. Hundreds of protesters turned out in Ferguson, Missouri. This week, according to a spokeswoman for the city, at least 3 people were injured in separate shootings in Ferguson overnight. Nathan Momper joins us live on Missouri State's campus with more details. Nathan, can you tell us about the mood on campus after these shootings?
Yeah, Eli. I mean, the mood, you can't really tell a difference. Classes are going on as normal, and there haven't really been any formal protests happening on campus. What we've been seeing a lot of is these chalkings. They're all over campus, all over the streets of campus, in front of halls and everything. And they, a lot of them say no peace, no justice, and they also say give statistics on how many black men are killed by police each hour. At least 2 people were shot and injured in shootings in Ferguson. The shootings happened as hundreds of demonstrators gathered in support in protests in Baltimore. Authorities say a man was shot in the leg and ran to a nearby Chinese restaurant to get help. An ambulance then arrived and took him to the hospital. A St. Louis report reports another person was shot in the neck. That person was driven by car to a hospital. Shots were fired at other times throughout the night. So as news breaks throughout the week of these events, the Washington Post recently published an article saying that Gray may have been injured in the police van by himself and not by police, as has been mentioned before.
Well, thank you for joining us, Nathan. The Baltimore Police Department are handing out their investigation of the death of Freddie Gray to prosecutors. Baltimore Police Commissioner Anthony Batts saying they have exhausted every lead. As mentioned earlier, a report came out Thursday suggesting Gray may have intentionally tried to hurt himself while in police custody. Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake says she hopes the new developments will not undo the sense of peace in the city. Closer to home, there have been at least 15 reports of thefts from motor vehicles on Missouri State's campus. This is according to MSU's Safety and Transportation Department. The cars pictured are courtesy of students Kathleen Sanders and Crystal Hawkins. Suspects are breaking the glass on the windows and then taking expensive electronics from the vehicles. No word yet on who broke into these cars. It's been more than 5 days now since the earthquake hit Nepal. The chances of finding anyone alive under mountains of rubble are growing very slim, but miracles do happen. Earlier today, rescue workers pulled out a teenager who was buried under the debris of a multi-story residential building. The Nepali Army also rescued this 11-year-old girl from under a house where she'd been for a little over 90 hours. Recently, analog formats haven't been making a comeback. Cassette tapes are starting to grow momentum. Springfield is one of the only places in the world that makes cassettes. Ozarks News Brief's Alan Heckler visited the National Audio Company to see how these tapes are made.
Steven Stepp says that cassette tapes have made a major comeback.
The retro revolution. People like having something to hold in their hand. They can read the record jacket, they can read the J-card from the audio cassette while they're listening.
Pop culture played a big part in it.
We just did a project for Metallica. We've seen Judas Priest.
Did the soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy for Disney.
Independent and mainstream bands love the customization the tapes bring.
They're unique. They are not expensive. They can do their own artwork and be very creative with them.
Tapes are not just for music. They help the visually impaired with a format called Monaro.
And that is a format we use in doing books and magazines for the blind and visually handicapped.
The National Audio Company makes about 95% of cassette tapes in the U.S., and the popularity of this format is growing.
And the audio cassette growing at 300 to 400% a year is anything but a dead business.
Other cassette tape businesses went wayside as the market changed.
A lot of the equipment that we have here, we bought from companies as they went out of business. We didn't think cassettes were dead yet.
The production floor is never quiet.
When we're running everything full out, we can run about 100,000 cassettes in an 8-hour day.
Stepp says that the time is right for a cassette comeback.
The under 35 age group is going to be out there wanting audio cassettes and analog recordings, and that's where we want to be.
And sometimes you have to rewind to move forward. In Springfield, Alan Heckler, Ozarks News Journal.
Straight ahead on Ozarks News Brief at 4. We'll take a look at the forecast for the weekend. Stay tuned. Now, there's nothing like a call from your idol to boost your spirits when you're sick. That's what one girl did. After an aggressive social media campaign for her mom, 12-year-old Emily Beasley, a Chicago girl facing a difficult cancer diagnosis, talked to singer Taylor Swift on the phone Wednesday evening. Conversation lasted for about 10 minutes, and when it was over, Emily's family says she had the biggest smile on her face. And that's going to do it for this edition of Ozarks News Brief at 4 p.m. Be sure and go enjoy that warm weather. I'm Eli Willenhouse, and thank you for joining us.